Hello everyone, this is Robert from Book of Mormon Editions, where we discuss printings, publications, and various editions of the Book of Mormon. I mentioned in a previous video that some covers of the Book of Mormon are more recognizable than others. This is the case with this next edition of the Book of Mormon that we will review today. This is the blue Book of Mormon with the gold angel Moroni on the front. I previously did a video regarding the series in general and will post the link to it at the end of this video, but I wanted to share some deeper details today going through this series as there is a lot of interesting characteristics for book collectors and enthusiasts. So here we go. So some background is that in the 1950s, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints converted their printing process over to a soft cover printing. They printed the black and red covers of the Book of Mormon until a change that took place in the 1960s. In 1961, the church published this blue cover Book of Mormon with a gold angel Moroni on the cover. Interestingly, that this was had a printing date of 1961, but a copyright of 1963. I asked a printing specialist about this, and they mentioned that the printing date can come before a delayed copyright date, but it's a bit unusual. The most interesting and unique feature for this copy is that the cover shows a gold angel Moroni with a background showing vertical background striping that resemble clouds or sun rays from the sun. However, this was the only year that this cover had the feature, as the similar cover of the late 1960s and 70s had an updated cover with a horizontal clouds background striping. The other subtle change was that the original Angel Moroni had a turned 3/4 profile, and the later covers had a profile that was turned towards the front, and the color contrast was also adjusted. So the cover for this 1961 printing was unique, had a unique material for the cover that was somewhere between vinyl and cardstock. However, over time, this cover becomes brittle and cracks and doesn't age well. So for Book of Mormon collectors, getting a clean, non-broken copy of this 1961 cover with vertical background is a challenge. Once again, this vertical lined background was only in 1961. However, I did find a copy with an updated cover with a 1961 printing. And once again, in the late 1960s and 70s, it was strictly this updated horizontal striped background cover. As mentioned before, there is a set of 8 paintings commissioned by Arnold Friberg inserted within these volumes. However, Arnold Friberg was commissioned by the church for 12 paintings, and it seemed that 4 didn't make it into the set. The reason was that the last 4 were painted after 1961 when the printing already had started. So we only have 8 out of the 12 Friberg pictures included in this Book of Mormon. I guess the picture of Ammon protecting the king's sheep will have to be appreciated somewhere else. So has the text changed between these volumes? Well, yes and no. Here's the fun part. There were no editorial changes between these two series. However, while keeping with uniform verses per page and the same general page layout, the later printings changed some of the soft returns within the verses, where the line ends and wraps around to the next line. For example, on the very last page, it has the ending of Moroni chapter 10, verse 32, and the last line of that verse, the phrase says, "Power of God." The later versions have a different phrase as the last line shows, quote, "the power of God," end quote. In other words, the word "the" was wrapped around and reflected in the last line. In essence, this means that there is a new set of printing plates that accompanied the later printings, as these soft returns were throughout the whole text. It's also interesting to point out that the copyright changed through the series also. The earlier set has a 1963 copyright by David O. McKay. However, the later printings revert back to listing 1920 original copyright with a 1948 update. So if this has turned confusing, it did for me too, so here's a recap. The first printing of the set was in 1961 with a 1963 copyright with darker angel Moroni slightly turned with vertical sunrise and the text with the original line returns. There is a 1961 printing with a 1963 copyright with a second format cover showing a brighter angel Moroni turned face forward with horizontal sun rays and an original format text also. I found a 1974 printing with a 1963 copyright and a second format cover, but the text was changed to the new set of South returns for various verse lines. And then there's a 1978 printing that I found with a 1920 and 1948 copyrights with the second cover and updated text. Phew. All in all, this blue Book of Mormon with the golden angel Moroni on the cover is one of the most recognized copies within readers of the Book of Mormon, and very often you'll hear conversion stories that mention reading within this set. So while a lot of time is spent on covers, copyrights, and text blocks, I'm reminded that the message is always more important than the vessel. This is why the Power of God line is a good litmus test in this series, as it's good to focus on what the power of God means in our lives, not just when it's on paper. So thanks everyone for having a little fun going down a huge rabbit hole on the Book of Mormon cover analysis. And please feel free to tell others about this, especially to those who have a copy of this book in their bookshelves. In the meantime, if you have a specific or unique printing of the Book of Mormon that you'd like reviewed here, please contact me at bomeditions@gmail.com. Best wishes, everyone.